Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Cruz.
This is Dan.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
Nathan
This
East.
is Sebastian Younger.
This is David Labb.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick
I'm
Gillette.
Christopher
This is
Knopf.
Dr. Bob Greenberg.
I'm Laird Hamilton.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, I'm Mark Valley.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
This is Erik Shaw, CEO of Tactical 16, and you are listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero, Mark Valley, and Pete A. Turner.
Erik is someone that I'm working with on a project, and I'll have him explain it, but basically, Erik has started a publishing company that's really, really cool. It's focused on warrior stories, helping the folks like me who have these incredible stories but struggle either to get it done. I mean, one thing we know about the publishing industry is if you get a book deal, it's a lot easier to get things done, but getting a book deal is the hard part. So how do we lower the bar to get to some of these incredible, and I'm telling you, incredible stories? We'll be grabbing some of these authors along the way and teaching you about what these guys do. I know our audience supports veterans. Absolutely, Erik. This is a big thing for these guys. They're going to want to. They're going to want to buy these books. They're already talking about buying Scott's book. He was on a couple weeks ago. Johnny Walker's book. We've had a bunch of other people on. We've had Scott McEwen on the show. We've had Jim DeFelice. These are all writers who work in the warrior space. Heck, we've had Sebastian Younger on the show. So these guys are all people that are passionate about what we're passionate about, and the audience has been great about supporting them. So this, I think, is another logical step, and there may be some things to come out and announce later on, but for right now, let's talk about you. Let's talk about Tactical 16. Would you just really quick give us a quick bio about you, and then we'll go into the company?
Yeah, man. Army for 13 years. I think half of that was active, half doing the reserve thing. 2005 and 6, I deployed to Iraq with the 3rd ACR out of Fort Carson. Went over there, started in southern Baghdad, ended up in a little quaint town called Tal Afar, Iraq, which was wonderful. It was while we were up there is where we really got to experience Iraq and everything it had to offer in regards to shooting at us up there. So came back from that, and I realized there was stuff going on. In 2006, they weren't really caring. I don't want to say they weren't caring. I don't think they knew what they were looking for in regards to PTSD and TBI especially. So I knew while I was in Iraq that I had sustained a couple head injuries while I was there, close calls with some IEDs and things of that nature. So when I came back, I was having cognitive issues and stuff like that, memory, really having an issue focusing, didn't know what I wanted to do with my civilian life, and that was coming at me at 100 miles an hour. And, I was kind of fortunate enough through some networks to just kind of get to meet some people that were in the entertainment industry at various levels and stuff like that. And the more I talked to them, the more they said, you got a pretty cool story. Have you ever thought about doing the book thing? And I did not think about doing the book thing. For me to any book that doesn't come with crayons, I'm gonna have problems with. So
that's true about
you. It's out there, man. The reputation's out there. So, and the stories are all true. So, I got involved with thinking about doing the book thing, and then at that time there was a lot of veterans that were starting to get their books out on the market. So I was kind of researching that whole thing and what was involved. And the biggest thing that picked up on me really quick was these authors were getting really bad book deals, and realizing that was a really big red flag for me. And at the time I didn't know anything about the publishing industry, so it wasn't like I had a foot to stand on to just come in there and revolutionize everything. But I knew that was wrong, and then I was, got to talk to some authors that had published, and they're like, well, we got a ghostwriter. I got like 3%. Of my profit and all sort of stuff. And I was like, I can respect the notoriety, the story, the veteran that deserved all that attention. But I was like, man, you didn't really get to take care of your family out of this deal. And you didn't really get to, mentally release anything that was going on. So we that's where the seeds of Tactical 16 got planted. I wanted to create something that would be a little mentally stimulating for veterans that might be struggling with some stuff, and at the same time give them profits that they deserve.
I want to back up way back and get into some of this stuff, because the guys like us, we have incredible stories, and the people know that. But what they don't know, and what you're not going to realize, guests in general, is what you find mundane. There's tremendous value in talking about this, and this is what the audience has come to learn from us. Is that I'm going to stop you and go, wait, hold on, you were in Talifar? What year were you in Talifar?
2005.
Okay.
I think 2005 for the main part. I got back home in 2006, early 2006.
So I was up in Missoula as a main area, and we worked in support of some Tier 1 guys. And Talifar obviously was an area where we focused a lot of our efforts. And actually I had an opportunity to go there for a pretty large-scale operation. And I don't think the timelines line up, but you know what a hard place that was. I mean, Ramadi and Fallujah absolutely get a lot of credit for being hard, the Triangle of Death, all those things. But all that stuff was provisioned by going through Talifar and a lot of nefarious players up there. We were there for an operation. Spectre gunship was on scene, shooting. Very loud, very concussive. And even though I was a distance away, you were constantly being hit by all of these shockwaves, of all the different things that are blowing up. And just looking at what was being destroyed out there, and granted, it's war, and that's what happens, but people don't get to have that experience of yes, you go to fireworks shows and your clothes will move because there's concussions from the fireworks. But when you know there's a person on the other end of that munition, it's not necessarily a TBI, but it is an injury that you're sustaining because those are people. What are your thoughts? I mean, Talifar, talk about that. Talk about what the thoughts are on how those things impact service members in general.
But I think now the military is a lot better at diagnosing that stuff a little sooner. From my experience back in 2006, and I'm just now putting the dates together, realizing that we're old. So, but that whole time frame there wasn't a whole lot going on for it. And, guys were, I think the main thought process towards the TBI was you had to have a direct contact strike, with your head to pavement or head to armor or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And now, I think that people are a lot more educated to know that that's not the case. I mean, I had an Abrams blow up in front of me, probably, 50 yards, and that knocked my Kevlar off, and you when you rewind on that and realize what just occurred to you, that's probably as big a force as hitting your head on concrete, so.
For sure.
But back then we didn't know, and neither did the doctors for that matter. So
yeah. Well, you have to start studying it to figure out that, oh wow, there's actually quite a bit of things that happen. The stories that come out of this, though, a lot of these stories are going to be more perseverance based. In our modern fight, you tell me when you disagree, because you're definitely entitled to that. In our modern fight, when we get into these combat situations, like in Talifar and everything, a lot of modern combat looks like people sitting around drinking chai and talking and everything. A lot more of the stories are more, at least from my personal perspective, are more reflective, are more trying to convey this is what it's really like. Yes, for short bursts of time, it's absolutely as lethal as any other kind of thing, but nobody can sustain a hard fight for long enough to. I mean, you just think, like, we'd go on foot patrols all the time in Afghanistan, and I would try to explain to my friends, if you're in a firefight for very long at all, you're out of ammo. I mean, if you bring 210 rounds, a basic load, you can shoot through that pretty quickly. So let's say you double up. Well, now you're well above 100 pounds, so
yeah.
There's sacrifices that come really fast. So a lot of the modern fight is not actual video game style combat. It's other things. What's your experience from hearing the different authors tell their stories through Tactical 16? What have you found to be sort of the norms of what you're seeing?
I think through us, well, the one biggest thing right out the box is technology's changed so much, and we've been fortunate enough to deal with World War II Vietnam authors all the way up to present day, and I'm so grateful for the Vietnam guys, because I think that was the war that kind of was the pivot that moved our military in the right direction towards getting the technology and the manpower right. And without the sacrifices those guys made, the numbers are a lot higher in Afghanistan and Iraq. So the technology is definitely one thing. And, the other thing that I've noticed from talking to other people, and they can relate, is, no two firefights were ever the same, and they were nothing like the movies. I mean, you could be getting engaged for, 4 or 5 minutes sometimes, and you don't even know where it's coming from. So it's not even like you're returning fire immediately. You don't know what you're shooting at.
Right.
So, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to explain to the normal civilian that's out there, because normally when they see a movie, it's force on force, fire, 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 and all that stuff, and then the scene ends and whatever else happens after that. But that's not that's not the reality of what we all went through.
Yeah. I've literally been in a firefight that was short in duration, less than half an hour, and then within 90 minutes, I'm in the chow hall having a cheesesteak.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like these surreal moments where these things don't line up. The other thing is I've started using the term co-belligerent, because it's not accurate, I don't think, to say the enemy, because we've sided with a partner that we've chosen, and their enemy isn't necessarily our enemy. And then we often see things that clearly are not the enemy. Maybe it's corruption, maybe it's survival, maybe it's being extra legal. Those aren't belligerents. Those aren't people that you're fighting a war against. You may conflict with them, but you're all fighting a greater instability is what you're trying to fight. So if you have Sunnis and you're on the side of the Shia, sure, the Sunnis are going to throw some fight your way, but ultimately they're trying to accomplish a different goal. So as warriors, we've struggled with, where's the guy with the sword who's going to surrender when we kick your ass? That dude doesn't exist, because they're not technically fighting us. We're trying to fight them, and when you start to look at the fight in that way, you realize that there's a lot more fights going on. So one of the things, the way I see modern combat is you have to fight militarily, of course, but also socially, culturally, politically, by, with, and through religion. These are the other areas where there's active conflict going on, and those things are driving the outcomes. And I don't know what your experience was in Talifar, because that was certainly more of a military thing. But I will tell you, from when I would go, probably before you were there, we spent a lot of time fighting the information battle, fighting the messaging battle, and the technology aspect is there. But really, on the end, before you even get to a place like Talifar, the training isn't set up to enable you to anticipate these things. You have to train for firefights so you can survive them. But the reality is most of what you do is a different kind of conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's with Iraq and Afghanistan especially. Now we're looking at a whole new generation of warfighter coming through, fighting the same war me and you fought.
Right.
And this whole new generation, when I joined the Army in 2000, social media didn't even exist. It wasn't even a whisper that was going to happen. I think we were still using AOL dial-up, so
yeah.
And then you look at the situation now, and the information, the internal information that we're putting out isn't always accurate. So we're fighting that battle, let alone what bad guys are throwing at us. So that's like a whole new multi-dimensional front internally that's coming at us that, I think we're trying to adjust on the fly on, and success is, varied at this point.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Tactical 16. So first off, let's pay the bills a little bit. You guys should check out Tactical 16 at tactical16.com. Go on Twitter. You can interact with Erik. We're going to set it up so that ultimately the authors are going to come on. You'll be able to interact with these guys and understand their story. And one of the things that's cool about podcasts is you'll get to know these authors through their interaction and be able to learn the bigger story. Because if you think about a book in terms of what the message is, it's a very linear, winnowed down, singular message. You just don't have time for all of the extra context in a book. It just becomes too disarrayed. And what's cool about podcasts, we can have these guys come on a few times and start to really get an idea of who they are and how they got to where they were. And as they process these challenges that they write in their book about, you get a deeper, more clear, resolved picture out of what they do. When you started this, did you have an idea, or did you actually know a bunch of warrior authors that were ready to go, or did you just kind of sense that we were on out there?
I had no idea what we were doing when we launched. I had a company out in Washington, D.C. that wanted me to do the book thing, my personal story through them. And it didn't seem, I wasn't comfortable with it. At that point, we're like, I think we could do better. And the team that I have is, they'll just jump in and get at it, and we'll just figure it out. And that's kind of how Tactical 16 happened. We did my book first to learn how publishing worked, because I didn't want to do somebody else's book and then screw it up and then, ruin somebody's life. I figured if we did my book and it didn't work out that well, no harm, no foul. So we figured it out. We liked it. And then we were fortunate enough that Fox News picked us up like 3 days after we launched the company.
Wow.
Yeah, so in fact, the first time I ever seen my book in book form was on Fox News when they digitally they digitally enhanced it on the monitor there. So I was like, wow, this is pretty serious now. So they picked us up and they kind of kicked us into the fast lane pretty good there, and that allowed our message to get out there. And honestly, since that first interview, we haven't reached out to recruit authors or anything. They're finding us now, and we're helping who we can. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's pretty neat. Let me ask you this too. Have you had much media attention from the other major networks? I mean, clearly Fox News has a more right-leaning approach. And if we were going to be very unfair, that's the side that's more America and warriors and that kind of thing. But have you found that the other major aspects want to talk to you?
Not when we launched, Fox was pretty much it, but we've grown. Andy Oak is on our team. He's been on Sky News, Fox News, BBC. He's done them all. I think he was on CNN once. So it kind of became more of not so much what Tactical 16 is about as more of, do you have an author that's putting out something that's relevant to a situation that's going on right now? Mm-hmm. And we've been fortunate enough to kind of have all genres and bases covered for that, where they might reach out to us and say, hey, do you have a guy? And we'll be like, yeah, here you go. And then they go do their thing. So,
yeah, the mix of books. First off, how many books have you guys published already? You've been at this for a few years now.
I think we're getting up near 20 now, which is amazing.
Yeah. Hey, one book is amazing, and you've got about 20, so that's pretty awesome. And then are there any fiction works, or are these mostly memoirs, or what's the mix, would you say? We
got it all, man. We've done kids books, we got some more of those coming out. Robert Lewis did a book called The Pact, which is he was a Green Beret in real life, and he kind of took what he knows and on an unclassed side, just put down this book that, I mean, it makes Red Dawn look like Disney World. So I've actually had people email me saying that the book scared them.
Jesus, yeah.
So I didn't, that was a new review for me to have to decipher and figure out how to respond to, and then we have autobiographies, and leadership has become a big thing as of late. Chris Shafer has his book out there. We have Tim Clune down in Texas. He just did a leadership book, and leadership books are fun. They're because that's a viewpoint of a snapshot of success that worked for somebody, and now they're handing out this blueprint to others. And it shows all kind of different aspects. There's not just a one size fits all type of leadership, and we're trying to capture that and show the American public different ways.
Definitely a lesson learned there, because the military is dedicated and constantly. Well, you know this from being in the military, so I'll give the audience a little bit of clue. One, there's leadership schools, and they're not just military schools. You might go to a specific university to do something, that's very academic, but also the military, your leader above you is constantly trying to find ways to develop your leadership so you're prepared for the next level. So there's a constant mentoring from the higher, and so we do get steeped in what it means to be a leader. And it's not just because you're in charge of people. Before you get to be in charge of people, there's mentors and leaders making sure that you've done the work to be in a position to succeed. Not everybody does. You have to learn, but you are set up in a way that I don't think the civilian world is able to capture, because the bottom line is a lot more demanding than the pace of operations in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. And the leadership books are fun because, like I said, we can show different ways of doing stuff, and by proven people, in my opinion, the people that wrote these books have been there and done that. They're a little harder to sell because, with that kind of category, it's one of those deals where the people don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But we get it done and have fun. The authors are all happy. The authors are happy. That's the biggest thing I care about. So.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about lowering this bar to creation, because, like you said, you're going to get a 3% deal from, and I'm just going to say the words, Simon & Schuster, whatever book company it is. They've got a program. They exist because it works, but they do take a big cut of what's written. And if you have the time to go out and, kind of in the blind write this book, you're not guaranteed a big payday. Or you could self-publish. You're sort of in between that niche where we maybe help you write this thing a little bit. If you've already got it written, we're going to help you make a little bit more money. Talk about filling that gap.
Yeah, so we consider ourselves a hybrid publisher. We've taken what's good with some of those other entities out there that you just mentioned, and we've tried our best to eliminate what's bad. And there's a lot of bad. The self-publishing route, they can kind of rake you over the coals sometimes. And I don't agree with authors having to pay to tell their story, but that's what you do on the self-published side.
Right.
The big publisher side, the odds of you getting an email back saying they even received your book are slim. We try to fall in the middle there, and we've created a program that the profits go up to the author the way that they should, instead of down to us. And that's what the other companies don't do. They're the self-publishers want paid up front because they know that's where they're going to get paid, and the big publishers aren't going to sign you at all unless they know they can make X amount of dollars off your story.
Are there too many warrior books in the marketplace?
I don't think there's ever too many. I mean, that's up to the American public to decide what they want to read and what they don't. I think there's a lot of garbage out there. All
right, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Tell me what's. You don't have to be specific, but tell me what garbage looks like.
I think you can definitely tell the authors who bought into their own hype a little bit and maybe self-published that thing, and you open the book up and the formatting's horrible, or the cover looks like it was done on Microsoft Paint. It's stuff like that, and
Paint.
It's like we don't do that. We provide a very above industry standard product that'll run with the big companies all day long.
Yeah.
I think there's a culture within our veteran community that everybody kind of wants to be famous sometimes, and they skip steps on getting there. And some of the stories are amazing, but the product is not. And, you only get one chance at a first impression. So,
yeah. What kind of stories do you think work? I mean, you've been selling books. So what stands out where, it's those people in your kind of work where you go, I can make a hit out of that. What is that?
Well, right now, the last 3 years, there's been a large response, I guess, towards female veteran stories.
Okay.
I don't think they ever get captured correctly.
Yeah.
There's some girls out there that are kicking some ass, man, and their story gets watered down a little bit, or it doesn't even get out there at all.
Right.
So we're kind of focused on turning a couple of those around this year, see what we can get done there. And I think now at this stage of where we are as Americans on a whole, people really like the story of the underdog, man. The come from nothing kid to, doing big things, and we're working on one of them too. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I like telling stories for veterans that show success at the end of their careers to where they're successful now.
Yeah.
I don't think that story gets out there enough. There's a lot of guys that are successful and doing it very quietly, and a lot of people just want to focus on some of the negatives with like the VA and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, I think you're right. There's a lot of good stories on how to transition that as veterans we all need to hear. And I do want to get into the reluctance to tell the story thing, but let's put a pin in that. And I want to back up a little bit and talk about female warriors. One of the things that I like to do is tell, like, especially a lot of the generation or two before us in the military, where as we become a more gender neutral force, and we say like, hey, women can go into combat now, and my peers, a couple of years before me.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner
or at JohnLG69
at the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show. Are hesitant, and they say, the standards are going to go down and combat effectiveness is going to go down. And I think, where you guys been? There's been female MPs, rocking Ma Deuces, and that's a significant weapon to even just chamber around,
Yeah.
So, and they've been doing that for 10 plus years, standing up, getting blown up in turrets, driving around in combat. I love the fact that these stories are coming out, because you don't have to be G.I. Jane. You don't have to be a SEAL to be a warrior. You can absolutely be out there. And I was talking to Chris Shafer, who's been on the show. You guys should definitely check out the episode he and Brent did with me. I'll put it in the show notes for you guys to see. But we talked about the other day the people that do route clearance. For those of you who don't know route clearance, these people drive 10 to 15 miles an hour max all night long, crawling along the routes that guys like me drive on or walk on the next day to ensure as best as they can that there's no bomb there. And you better believe there's females out there. So here's what you're doing. You were driving around trying to encounter bombs. That's your job. One of the people on that patrol sits in basically what amounts to a bulletproof phone booth of a cockpit for how do you describe that bomb scooper upper thing, Eric? It's like a four-legged spider of a vehicle.
It looks like something out of Star Wars.
Totally, right? Yeah, take like 10 foot, maybe 15 foot, I don't know, just really long legs with wheels on the end of them, and then a phone booth in the middle of it, and put a person in that phone booth. That's the guy that person is picking up the bomb and moving it to wherever it needs to be. That person rides around in that vehicle. Get this. They ride around in that vehicle in that phone booth with 4 tourniquets in place ready to twist when they get blown up. That is as combat as you get nowadays. Imagine that every night. That's your job for your entire year you're there. Just trying to...
Yeah, and when I was in South Baghdad, rock clearance was our major job.
Oh, fuck. When you go, then.
Yeah, so, it wasn't really a joke, but, we always said that we're going to go out and clear this route, and one way or the other, it'll be clear. We're either going to find it or it's going to find us, but the road will be open. And we were doing it on a primitive level when they came in with those machines, and they had a little bit more training. But you're right, when you'd see them with tourniquets on, it took a minute to kind of comprehend what was going on here. And then you're like, wow, those guys are something else, and girls.
Yeah, because there absolutely are females on these patrols. You are trying to find a bomb. I liken it to the early astronauts going, wait, this was a missile one iteration before, and now I'm going to sit on top of it, and you're going to launch me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm the warhead now.
Yeah. Like, wait, we're trying not to get blown up, and I'm the guy that's trying to get blown up. So, okay. Yeah. I'll do that job. So these stories are absolutely incredible. And the female end of it, whether you're a combat medic or you're an MP, I want to tell these female stories. I want to read these books. I want to support these authors. So let's talk a little bit about the reluctance to tell these stories, though. It seems to me that we're the first generation of warriors to really say, no, let me tell you right now, this isn't when I reflect at 70. Like, this is what's happening right now. We're all trying to sort through how to fight this fight. But there's plenty of us that still have that stoic, silent warrior kind of approach. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I tell people to go with whatever works. I think there's something for the guy that doesn't talk, because that was the whole World War II generation, and most of the Vietnam generation. And for the most part, those guys they led successful lives and did what they had to do. I think, again, getting back to technology and the way things are for our generation, it's a little different atmosphere, So I think that I'm all for people telling their stories, obviously, with Tactical 16 and what we do there. I promote accuracy, because that sometimes gets caught in a gray area with vets as time goes on. And then I also absolutely let them know, if we go to book with this thing, don't get caught in a shell and think you were the only person there when this particular event may have happened to you. You probably had 18 other people around you, and that's why that accuracy thing kind of comes into it, because you want to make sure that they say, yeah, that's how it happened, as opposed to this book getting picked up by movies and you're jet setting around the country and then your whole company wants to kill you. So
yeah,
try to avoid that whole situation. We've been pretty good about that. I have not, in the 6 years or so that we've been doing this, I've not received a single letter, email, whatever, from any of our authors from veterans they served with saying, no, that wasn't accurate, you need to pull that, or whatever like that. I've got a lot of emails saying I wish there was more detail, but I'd rather have those emails than the I want to kill you because that book sucked and they lied email. So
yeah. But even then, so like my buddy Johnny Walker, he's got a New York Times best-selling book. He's got a movie that they're making of his life. He's an incredible guy, and he even says it. In his own world, in the Iraqi interpreter world, he's reviled by his peers. And they call him a liar, they call him a loser, and if we're going to be 100% honest, he has struggled, get this, to adapt from being an Iraqi guy in constant combat, hunted by other Iraqis and Al-Qaeda people, to living in a serene place in the United States. Turns out that wasn't easy. So there's been some bumps in the road, but literally a lot of his peers, they can't stand him, and they will take every shot at him. Now, maybe that won't happen as often in the warrior land, but there will be some jealousy. There will be some clash between realities. I've certainly sat in a room and witnessed us acting inappropriately. And when I wrote my report for the commander and for everybody else to see it, I would get a lot of challenge. It's like, hey, you're allowed to challenge my analysis, and I encourage that. We want some rigor around here. Can't challenge my observations. You did do these things. You did say these things. I did go back with the governor and talk to them about what the meeting was like, and they volunteered this stuff. So some of that's got to be tough to sort through as an author, and when you push the truth button too hard, or maybe lighten up on the detail, or am I wrong in that?
No, it's pretty accurate, and I think that's why I'm not against ghostwriters, but I don't really care for them. And the biggest reason for that is a lot of times your story becomes their story. Mm-hmm. And a lot of authors, especially vets, man, and if it's a vet that, life is kind of beating them up a little bit, and now this is their big opportunity. they sort of lose track on being 100% accurate.
Right.
And ghostwriters don't care. I mean, that guy was probably writing science fiction last week,
Sure.
So
Yeah.
He's just trying to get it out there, get his name on there. If it hits big, he wins, and if it doesn't, he moves on to the next one.
Right. He's there to write a story. Yeah.
Absolutely. He don't care about the guys we served with and all that stuff. So
Right.
that's why I like the fact that our authors wrote our books. We haven't had a ghost written one yet. We might have some coming up here, but we haven't had them yet, and I think that has helped them not get negative feedback from people they served with. Now, we have had some authors, experience it with reviews and stuff like that, and a lot of it, the veteran community, for as great and supportive as it is, it'll also cut your legs out from underneath you sometimes, and I think there's always just going to be people that it just comes down to jealousy almost.
Right.
Their life isn't going the way that it was supposed to, and now you're moving forward and doing what you need to do, and they just don't like that. So and that's life in general. So
Yeah.
it's not ever gonna change.
Yeah, no, the show I just posted today is with Anna Vakino. We talked about ego, and how as you mature, if your ego is maturing with you, you're able to suspend that. Of course, I understand why someone would get a little jealous or like, I was there, I did this, but they didn't tell their story,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's not the author's fault. The author went out and told their version of the story. And that's what I say to my friends that I know Johnny. I'm like, hey, you don't have to like him, but you have to appreciate he went out, got his story told, and he gets to tell his story. Are there errors in every memoir ever? Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
But this is how I remember it playing out. These are the things. This is how I perceived it, and I wrote this damn book. So yeah, screw like forget you.
Yeah, and I've told a few of our authors that have had kind of negative feedback. You can't take it personal.
Right.
For one. At the end of the day, put our lives out there in the form of these books, and you can't expect it all to be rose petals and ticker tape coming back towards us after it's out there. But a lot of the feedback, when they know who actually left the feedback or whatever, I'll ask them like, well, what kind of soldier were they? Because I mean, a lot of the guys. Some of the guys I served with, this was their last ditch hope of ever doing anything with their lives, because they didn't do anything pre-army that mattered, so they weren't the greatest of people even in uniform. Yeah. So that doesn't go away after they get out of the military,
Yeah.
I ask them, what's your commander saying? Your senior NCOs, what are they saying? And if the leadership's like, that was an outstanding project, you're all right. So
yeah, you're all right. You're right. Let's get away from that. So first off, let me say to everybody too, you guys are working with us here at the Break It Down show. I want to make sure this is not meant to be an advertorial, but I do want to highlight what you do, and we do this all the time with warriors and authors. We did it with Scott. We have no business relationship with Scott at all, and Johnny's a dear friend, but I do this to support you guys on the strength of what you do, what we've all been through. So for sure, Tactical 16's a client, and I want you guys to know about what they do, but I support and I actively work to help these guys out, because I do believe in telling these warrior stories. I do believe in the cathartic nature of writing these books, and if there's something that we can do, I get to have a show. I get to tell my story through episodes, and I certainly have a book that I'm pecking away at, and a screenplay. Let's talk about screenplays in a second. I have these things, but I also have this platform that I get to do it on. This is what Erik has built, is another thing where we all get to have these incredible stories and benefit from it, but the author also gets a lot out of it. Have you seen the positive benefit from the author writing the book? Not financially, not in terms of acclaim, but in terms of just getting better.
Oh, absolutely. We and the thing is with writing a book, to anybody listening, the odds of you getting rich off writing a book are slim and none. I mean, to jump into the publishing industry in today's world is a little bit insane, but that's the type of people I hang out with, so we make it work.
Yep.
But don't ever go into a project thinking, this is my meal ticket here. That's how the the self-publishers hook some of these authors. So seeing the authors and just to be able to have a positive outlet where they can release some inner demons, and it doesn't even have to be an autobiography, it's just writing in general, has I think helped every author we've signed, get over some sort of hurdle that may have been in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just again, that letting go of the story. And a lot of times, too, working through what you have to work through to tell it. I mean, all the time I remember like certain specific instances because I've triggered a part of my memory. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this mistake I made, or look at this move somebody else made that I copied later. And you just realize these things when you get into the story. And I find it to be really therapeutic when we had a guy named Robin Drake on. He's a counterintelligence guy like me, but he worked with the FBI. But we both approach this stuff from a point of view of trust, and it's just fantastic to hear that because I've struggled a lot with like, how come my style is so different than everybody else, and how they approach it. So it's really good as a warrior, as a combat guy, to be able to identify the story and how it's impacted me, and let it be okay. Let it be fine.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about the screenwriting aspect. What are you guys doing with that?
The screenwriting stuff has been kind of new. I think 2 years ago, one of our books got kind of a preliminary agreement with a company that wanted to do a screenplay and all that stuff. And then we went back on Fox News to discuss that whole thing. And then Terrence Malick, who did the Thin Red Line, jumped in on that project. And that's still there's still a lot of moving parts with that whole deal. But we got to see firsthand how Hollywood kind of works and how they take a book and flip it around. So that kind of opened up doors for us out there, and we made a bunch of other contacts. And I think now pretty much every book we launch, the contacts we have out in California, we'll send the finished product out to them and see what they think, and then we kind of go from there. So that was a whole new kind of subdivision of Tactical 16 that came out of right field on us. But I'm never going to back down from an opportunity to find my writer's success. So, I'll strap on the director hat and make it happen.
That's a beret.
What is Google for? Let's Google some stuff and make a movie.
And watch a YouTube video on how to make a movie. And
absolutely.
If you're as fortunate as making The Room, where you make the worst movie ever made, and it's one of the most successful movies ever made. It's hilarious.
Yeah, man. So.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'm excited too to see what kind of stories come out. So we're talking about getting things published. First off, let me back up and say this: we're talking about Tactical 16, tactical16.com, at Tactical 16, all social platforms. This is what we're talking about today with the big boss Erik Shaw. And you've played softball with a bunch of notable people. I want to get into that in a second. But any other areas where you guys are going to be dabbling in telling warrior stories? Obviously, the books, the screenplays. What else is coming up?
The books are our focus, and I got to remind our team of that sometimes because there's a lot of opportunities that come our way to go do some stuff, and we get invited to events all over the country to come and attend it. But at the end of the day, I got to stay focused on the books. The books are what got us here, and the books are what's going to carry the company. Anything else that comes out of that, if we can make it work, and I got the right pieces, and that's another part too. These other opportunities, screenplays and stuff come along, and if I don't have the right pieces around me to kind of take a look at that and say, yeah, that makes sense, then I'm not going to get involved with it, And we just kind of ride the wave. Each book is a new adventure and challenge, and some do better than others, but, we treat them all the same. So
I like it. So staying true to the roots and getting the books out the door. What's a hit for a book? I mean, there's a lot of, bestseller on Amazon, bestseller on New York Times, bestseller here, bestseller there. But, there's not really a bar. Give us an idea. What is a successful book? Do you have to, as someone who's sitting there on the precipice, one of these warriors that listens to the show, and we're always encouraging people to create something, is it 500 books sold? Is it 1,000? Is it 10? What do you think? What's the bar at when you got a good book?
You know what? I never stress sales for us, and like I said, we're a hybrid, so I don't think too many other companies will be emulating what we do anytime soon.
Right.
I like when the author says that they have found success, and that could mean a lot of stuff. That could be, this book helped save my marriage, to this book helped me get my life back on track, to this book became a business card of sorts, which has allowed me to go find a better job. And that's happened too. That to me is success. Now, if we're talking industry standards, and yeah, you probably should be pushing out, 400 or 500 copies a month. But the realistic aspect of that actually occurring with us is it could happen and it could not.
Right.
So.
Some of this stuff you have to actually go through the exercise of writing the book and then let the book figure out what it is and work hard to promote it, of course, but it's hard. Everybody's thought they've had a hit and watched it flop, and then every big creative person has said, I never thought this would be such a big hit, but there it is. So we've proven over and over again that learning what a hit is tough. What for someone who's sitting out there, some person that's a warrior or even not a warrior, and they feel like they've got a story, what are some of those, what's your advice as they're sitting there and they're contemplating, because it is a big endeavor? How do you get them off the couch and grab a pen and get going?
Well, I tell authors now, especially now that we're more educated as a company as to, what the market's looking for and how to better serve our writers. I tell authors now all the time, when it's all said and done, the writing is the easiest part of this whole process. Mm-hmm. If you don't have the ability to effectively market and get out in front of people and talk and, have a little bit of money on the side for some even just simple social media ad campaigns, it's going to be tough sledding, getting the story out there. And we can provide a therapeutic outlet to help writers all day long, but at the end of the day is the fact your book's not selling and it causes you more stress that you want to be dealing with at this point of your life. Only the authors can answer that, but I want authors to enjoy the process, and they've earned it. They've earned the right for them to come over to our label and us to get the books done for them. We didn't sign anybody just because, right? But there's a whole other world that opens up after my team gets done producing this thing and hands them a finished product. So
that makes a lot of sense. So I saw a picture of you playing softball, and I think you were the Keystone partner with Matthew McConaughey. Did I get that right? And then how the heck did that happen?
Yeah, man. That's just one of the roller coaster rides that has become my life. I could be going from hanging out at the 7-Eleven, drinking Slurpees, to walking red carpets in a matter of a phone call. But, we enjoy that aspect of it. But, yeah, I play on a celebrity softball team. I've been doing that for 2 years now. And this year we flew down to Dallas and participated in a game that was the University of Texas and University of Oklahoma. Matthew McConaughey is pretty much Mr. University of Texas, so he was on the Texas side. I was on the Oklahoma side with Toby Keith and a couple guys over there. So it was a good time. We're going to be going back. Hopefully you can come down this year, man. October 4th. Put it in your calendar.
All right. Yeah.
So,
I like both those dudes. I like Toby Keith and I like Matthew McConaughey. So where do you play on the diamond then? Am I right in thinking that you play shortstop?
Yeah, I don't play shortstop for my local team here. They won't let me even get near the infield. So,
well, that was my next question. Have you got the arm and the range for shortstop? Because that's the, I don't know, in my mind, other than pitcher, most important defensive position.
I've got the adrenaline rush and the fear of looking bad in front of a large crowd, so that helps get the ball where it needs to go pretty quick. But yeah, well, I play outfield for some local tournament teams, and playing shortstop on a major league field is like playing left field on a softball field. So it's fun, man. We make it happen. It's a really good time. Everybody that I've met through those games has been outstanding. We all stay in touch. We all text back and forth, and as the game gets closer, there'll be be some smack talking and some wagering going on, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. I hope you can get down there. They're expecting a lot more people this year and a way bigger event, so it should be a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to talk to you off mic about that and go out and support those guys with what they're doing, because that's one of the things that we do on the Break It Down show is find ways to either amplify the community message or just get directly involved in it. So we for sure believe in that, because we can all do more than what we're doing. So that's how we help out. Talk to me a little bit about what's new and upcoming for Tactical 16 in the next year. I know we've talked a little bit about some of this stuff, but let's look in the future a little bit.
Yeah, so 2017 was a great year. In business, we want to keep building off that. So 2018, we brought Chris Shafer in to run the day-to-day operations of Tactical 16, which is huge because I was just getting bombed, man. I mean, there was so much stuff coming my way. I was dropping the ball on stuff that I didn't necessarily want to be dropping the ball on. So
Right.
Reached out to Chris, asked if he'd be willing to come in and kind of help us stay on track, and he agreed. So we're going to do that. I know we're going to have listeners that are going to email me asking about The Pact, Robert Lewis's book. He's going to be wrapping up book number 2 of that series this year, which is going to be awesome. I'll be getting all the I'm scared for my life emails again. So we're working with country singer Ryan Weaver.
Oh, okay.
Awesome dude. He's on this celebrity softball team with me as well. His story is unbelievable. I don't even want to whisper about it because it's that amazing, and I just want people to enjoy it for everything that it is once we get that done. Caroline Smith is going to join us. She wrote Sophia the Bionic Cat.
Nice.
It was a kid's book. It had to do with prosthetic stuff, and she's got a huge following. And when we talk about a hard-charging female veteran, man, she's the one. So we're going to do her story, which I think that's going to be a game changer for us, I think, when we get that one done. We got some more kids stuff coming out and a couple more leadership books we're working on. So we got our hands in all kinds of different projects. So never a dull moment here.
Cool. No, I love it. And I love, if I haven't told you already, let me just, on behalf of the audience, thank you for your service. But also, I love that you're building something as a warrior for yourself. You've been to one of the shittiest places on earth, and where people were deadly towards each other, and there's nothing anybody can do except for congratulate you for taking on this endeavor. Oh, and by the way, you're helping all us other warriors out and telling these incredible stories. So this is something that yes, of course you're a businessman, but you're also tackling one of the bigger problems, and this is how do we all, even us warriors, have the benefit of what the other warriors have done. I sit in my house here in Orange County, and I'm thankful for all those that have come before me, all those that are coming after me in the military. And I know our civilian peers, they just are super thankful for that. So, man, thanks for building this company that enables us to tell these stories, because I truly believe, and I don't know if you do, but I imagine you were in the same boat. Each of these warriors has an incredible story. Is it book grade? I don't know. I can't say, but everybody needs to tell these things, because the sacrifice, not only that you have made, but our kids make, and our spouses make, and our families make. There's, you want to talk about the sacrifice. There's gold star parents. There's gold star siblings, that have lost people, and it's a significant toll. So thank you for building this. I'm glad you're doing it for you, and just keep on telling these stories, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother, and I appreciate, without the support from guys like you, man, we're probably out of here 5 years ago.
Right.
It's been one of those deals where we've got support from some amazing sources and some amazing people, and we don't flaunt it. It's not something I wear on my sleeve of we know this person, or we hung out with them, or we got invited to that deal. It's never been about that for me. It's just been about creating opportunities for some veterans that deserve that opportunity. So
cool.
That's what we're going to keep on doing here.
Apart from buying books, how do people support Tactical 16? I'm positive that you guys are trying to always create funds and everything else. How do people support you guys financially apart from just buying books?
The books obviously are the number one way of getting it done. Usually once a year, we'll launch some. We'll do a little bit of clothing. I'll hit up Daniel Erik over at Grunt Style, and we'll see if we can get some sweatshirts made this year. That's about it, man. I mean, the books are. I commonly, when I talk to people that are not familiar with the military or veterans, and they want to help, they want to cut this check over to some nonprofit or whatever. I will remind them that you can buy one of our books and visually see the veteran that you're helping. Yeah. His name is on the title, and every single dime that these veterans earn through us, it helps. It helps keep them focused and on track, and it allows us to keep going and go out there and reach other veterans that maybe need a little bit extra resources to get their books done.
And there's also a lot of other things that are kind of secondarily attached to what you do that's helping out people. So I appreciate that. Hey, so you can find Erik on Facebook. Just go to Tactical16 on Twitter. Tactical16.com to buy books. I will put a link to the site in the show notes so you guys can find it and everything. As always, feel free to reach out to me, John, or Mark. We're real easy to find. Mark is Mark Valley. John is John LG69 on Twitter for both of those. I'm Pete A. Turner on Twitter. We give these things out so that you guys can, and we want you to connect with us and talk to us and let us know what you think. And every show that I create, I don't know if you know this or not, Erik, but I send it out to someone who enjoys the show, and I'm like, hey, listen to this thing to make sure that we're true. Like, do like a peer review, and if they come back and they say, man, that show was noisy, or that show was, I work to fix those things. So I definitely encourage you guys to reach out, talk to us, talk to the folks at Tactical 16, and know that we're all out there trying to create. And that's what we do here in the Break It Down show is we encourage people to pick up the pen, pick up the camera, pick up the brush, and start to make something, because at some point it's in your life, you need to have something that creates a lot of joy. And so I encourage all of you guys to do that. Erik, thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, brother.
I don't want you to be a stranger, and I want to grab every single author that you guys have and start to tell their stories. So when you guys get a chance, let's hook up and let's do that. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, man, we got some authors out there. We'll get you punched in, and I think we're going to be doing some more red carpet things this year. So when I come back out to LA, we'll get together for sure, brother.
Yeah, anytime you come out, and just shotgun with me, and we'll go grab somebody else, and you can co-host with me.
Yeah, man, sounds awesome.